The Warner Corporation has completed a monumental film work that could win them the Academy Award, but someone's stolen the script. It seems that Pinky and the Brain have conspired to snatch the script and use the money it will produce to help them in their plans to take over the world. But Pinky is stupid enough to drop scenes from the script in various film sets. Having thoroughly searched the studio and exhausted all other options, Warner Corporation's CEO has asked the Warner Brothers to retrieve the script.
Welcome to Retrotopia, a video game podcast where Sam and I talk about the different games we've played and tried to open up the world of missed games for each other.
Today we are talking Animaniacs for the Super Nintendo.
To start the show, I want to thank our listeners who've joined us. As of this recording, we have topped the 500 download mark in 93 days or 4 months. We appreciate the support.
Yeah, it's incredible, guys. Thank you.
But before we discuss the game, we'll catch up a little. Sam, how have you been and what's going on in your life lately?
It's been a bit of a busy week. Mostly working, staying busy with work, and it's been warmer here, so got the dogs outside for a walk, which was nice. They appreciated. And I've been playing a whole lot of Animaniacs.
And you loved it.
How about you, Brian?
Not much has been going on in my life lately. We've got some bad news over the last couple of days there, but it's not something I'm really going to discuss here. Other than that, nothing. Just going to school there, doing the script writing program I started, and trying to keep up with my assignments. It's definitely an interesting world going back to school as a fully grown adult. I just don't always feel like I fit in, but you know what? I'm having a good time, so that's what's important.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you want to join in on the conversation, you can reach us at Twitter at RetrotopiaPod, or you can email us at retrotopiapodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment on Spotify Podcasts, or if any other podcast service lets you, or you can join our Discord by following the link in the podcast description.
And speaking of hearing from our listeners, we started taking some comments from our listeners on Discord.
And on this podcast, we're going to be introducing a segment we call...
I don't know. I looked it up on the Wikipedia.
This is where a listener points out a minor mistake we might have made, and we check Wikipedia, the only source of accurate knowledge, or we'll make sure it is.
And these are minor mistakes only. We don't make major mistakes on this program.
No, absolutely not. We're like the Wikipedia of people. We don't make mistakes.
That's right, because we use Wikipedia for most of our research.
No, because I can change Wikipedia to follow my opinion.
Okay, let's get into this. From our SimCity episode, Zodiac wrote in to let us know that Maxis Studio, which is now a division of EA, was not shut down. However, a review of their Wikipedia article makes it seem like they were all but defunct and exist only now to support the Sims 4, The Sims, not SimCity, because that's no longer a thing. Is it a fate worse than death? I would say yes, EA. You can go fuck yourself. Yeah, so we've got all this information here. I don't know if you want me to read all this.
No, I got this. So the Wikipedia article states verbatim, in the wake of SimCity launch, Maxis went through a series of layoffs and studio closures, which continued throughout the 2010s. This began with 2014 restructure of EA Salt Lake, dissolving the Maxis group that had been headquartered there. A number of Maxis devs were migrated to the Redwood Shore Studios. Maxis's principal studio in Emeryville was closed in 2015, leaving only a smaller Redwood Shores team and a newly opened mobile developer in Helsinki under the Maxim name. Sorry, I meant Maxis, not the magazine, the SimCity developer. In September 2015, EA announced that the consolidated Maxis team would work alongside the EA Mobile division under Samantha Ryan. However, EA indicated that the collaboration would still see most of Maxis's future products available for personal computers. The group was then reorganized under EA Worldwide Studios in 2016, with the rest of Salt Lake shut down in 2017. Redwood Shores faced further layoffs in 2018, which included 15 to 20 Maxis staff. Development of The Sims Mobile was relocated away from the remaining Maxis developers in 2019, with FireMonkey taking over. This left continued support for The Sims 4 as a sole Maxis-fronted project at EA. The closure of Emeryville, in particular, as Maxis' long-lived core location, was described by commenters as the end of Maxis as it has been known in the past, with only the brand name persisting. Essentially, they're taking the studio and doing a weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. Hey, I was wondering, have you ever seen Weekend at Bernie's? That I feel like that's a movie that always gets referenced, but I don't know of anyone who's ever actually seen it.
Oh, I've seen it. That was like a
Yeah, have you
classic
seen
back
it?
when I was young.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I saw it pop up on Hulu, and I was really tempted to watch it just because I've never seen it, and I've always heard that reference, and you obviously understand the reference, but it just, anyways, that's off topic. We can get into our comments.
Yeah, and I can swear I remember it, and I just checked out that just to make sure it's true, but there is a Weekend at Bernie's too. That's where they take the corpse again and do more crap.
Oh, that turned my stomach a little bit. Hell yeah.
All right, let's get into the comments here. And I'm going to read this first one because it's from my good friend Wildcard. And he says, "Hey, Sam and Brian, do you guys plan on playing some games with your little community here down the road? I know a guy that plays Mario Kart in another Discord server, and the community seems to really enjoy it, especially a very specific mod for that Discord. I've been enjoying the show, guys. Keep doing you."
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've heard of this this Mario Kart group in this other Discord. This guy that's what does it say? He knows a guy that I think I'm faster than that guy.
I think everybody's faster than that guy. All right, I have an answer.
All right, go for it.
So the option to play games is always there, and the community is one we want to see to be self-motivated and kind of grow. I've played games with a lot of people in this community, and everybody's been fantastic. And the community Wildcard is talking about is Remember the Game, hosted by Adam Blank out of Edmonton there, and he basically has a Patreon Discord that you can join through his Patreon, and that's where Wildcard has started a Mario Kart Saturday group, and it's become very big, and we kind of stuffed them into their own little spot so they didn't disturb everybody else. As for the comment, keep doing me, or keep doing you, I'm going to keep doing me, and be damned the people complaining on the bus. If you don't like it, stare out the window.
What are you doing on the bus?
Well, I don't have anywhere else to do it. Too hard to
long ride, right?
Yeah. Trying to focus with my eyes all squinted and stuff down the highway.
We need to establish a P corner.
P corner. Yeah. All right, we're off track already. And I said earlier, no more penises.
Oh yeah, you did. Sorry.
All right, Sam. What's our next one?
This comes in from Unbuckled Cape. He says, "Hello, nurse." Hello, indeed.
Not so much a question as it is a comment, but we'll allow it.
Yeah, we'll allow it. That's a nice one. That's topical for Animaniacs.
Absolutely, and that is a famous saying from the old Animaniacs. You ever watch a new one there where they try to be a little more modern, I guess would be the word?
No, I didn't. That was they did like a Hulu reboot, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things, I remember watching a few episodes, and I think one of the things I remember about it was they no longer did the hello nurse, tongues out and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A little misogynistic there, so.
Yeah. Although, did you notice that Yakko's the tall one, right?
Yeah, he's the oldest, I guess.
Yeah, and then Wacko. I was usually playing as Wacko. It didn't matter who I was playing as. Whatever. We'll get into it. This game fucking sucks. But there was a point right before you exit a level that the nurse was just randomly standing there, and he just does the heart eyes and the eyes shoot out and his tongue drops. So oh god.
Of course, he's a thirsty little fucker.
We don't do this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously some of the stuff in the game is dated. So
yeah, for sure.
Just keep that in mind when we talk about it.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for the questions and comments. Before we get into the game today, what have you been playing, Brian?
I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake there, trying to get through the game. I'm almost done. Just want to get it done before this Rebirth comes out there. Mm-hmm. And I also remembered I actually have the Mega Man Legacy Collection on Steam, so I booted that up on my Asus Ally, and I'm now able to play the game kind of portably, which is it's nice because I don't have to buy it on the
Nice.
Switch to do that. How about you, Sam? What have you been playing?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's just been Animaniacs. And that's I didn't have a lot of time to game over the weekend, so I took a little bit of time and got to play through some more Final Fantasy 3. That game, the Pixel remaster especially, is incredible. That's for an upcoming episode. I've been really enjoying that. Animaniacs this past week has been a fucking nightmare, and we'll talk about it so that we can put it to rest and never talk about it again. And then just this afternoon, after I was done working, I decided to fire up Mega Man 2 for a little bit, and I was playing through that a little bit and trying to get the feel for it again, because I didn't have a lot of history with that game until pretty recently. So that's it.
Yeah, I got another I fucked my brother over story, but we'll get into that
Oh,
next week.
great! Those are the best. I'm starting to sense a pattern here.
Well, that was the younger brother, and you can't leave the decisions up to the younger brother who never got to play the game because the older brother wouldn't let him.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah, you got to fill the role of little shit.
Yeah, exactly, and that's for next week. And this week is Animaniacs.
Yep. And before we start the discussion, I will briefly talk about Animaniacs. Animaniacs was a 1994 platformer Konami developed as a series of games for the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and Game Boy. The game had a different storyline depending on the release, with one storyline on the Super Nintendo version and a second on the Genesis and Game Boy, with the Game Boy version released in 1995. In the Super Nintendo version of the game, Pinky and the Brain steal pieces of a movie script, and the CEO of Warner Brothers asks the Animaniacs to retrieve them. This task can be accomplished across 4 unique stages and by defeating Pinky and the Brain. In the Genesis and later Game Boy version of the game, the Animaniacs open a hip-hop culture shop and travel to the movie sets to obtain memorabilia. They also fight Pinky and the Brain to prevent them from stealing the memorabilia and taking over the world. The Genesis version also differs in gameplay, with each character having their own life meter and special abilities. Due to hardware constraints, this version was ported to the Game Boy with limited level selection. In the Super Nintendo version, the characters have no health bar or special abilities and lose their lives when they are captured by Ralph, the security guard. Players can earn characters back by playing special rescue stages on the overworld. Reviews for the Animaniacs games were mixed, with more favorable reviews going to the Genesis version due to the character abilities that added an extra layer to the gameplay. The Super Nintendo version of the game was criticized for its frustrating, one-dimensional gameplay. All right, before we discuss the game, we had a few comments from our listeners.
And the first one comes from our resident fact checker, Zodiac, who says, Animaniacs was my jam as a kid. I love watching it every day after school. Great stuff. No idea what the Warner Brothers and sister are still. The game, though? No idea. I know it existed, but I have no idea what it even is.
All right, and Super Dave writes in and says, looks like an episode from the show. Or it looks just like an episode from the show. It does. Funny how Ralph apparently didn't get the memo that the Warners were allowed to leave the tower.
And Sir Fancy Cake writes in and says, the Animaniacs were awesome. There was a point in time where I could name every country of the world due to the Nations of the World video. My lazy Google search has also told me that Spielberg was a producer of their show, which is news to me, but pretty cool.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Steven Spielberg had his hands in a lot of, obviously, great films, but Animaniacs, and I think he had a hand in Freakazoid as well, which is just
Yeah, he did a couple of cartoons there in the 90s.
Yeah, it's like Saving Private Ryan and then also Animaniacs. Like, oh, Jesus, what a flip.
Yeah, one's a crazy violent mess and the other's Saving Private Ryan.
Exactly. um, Unbuckled Cape writes in and says the theme song is now going to be stuck in my head for the next week. Thanks. Mine too.
And finally, Raging Demon says Animaniacs was an awesome show. I've never played the game, but it sounds like I should, and I couldn't agree more. And Raging Demon, that is a trademark phrase for another podcast. You thief.
I would say you shouldn't, and I couldn't agree more.
Hey, I copy and paste these. I don't even grammar check them. What you wrote is what you get.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Oh no, I want them to sound authentic. Plus, it's rude to change somebody's words. But what I really know Raging Demon is saying is that Captain N is great, and Captain N's
Yeah,
my...
he did. I saw it. It's written right
Yeah,
here.
Captain N's my other persona. All right, before I get into the podcast proper here, I just want to state that my Yeti Blue microphone was acting up during the recording of this. Very often my voice will fade out in the middle of a sentence. I didn't notice it until I started recording. I've tried to fix the intro as much as possible, but unfortunately the game chat's just too much work for me to do, so please bear with me for this episode. Next time I'm going to be back with a better microphone. Please try to enjoy the show. But all right. So that's our comments. Thanks everybody for writing in. It's always good to have a little bit of interaction when you're doing a podcast. So we're going to get into the game now. And basically, we'll start with the question: why this game, Sam?
Because I'm a glutton for punishment, Brian. No, we were just kind of looking through lists of Sega games, Super Nintendo games, NES games, and this one kind of jumped out at me because the nostalgia factor of watching the show, and obviously, like, you see it in the comments, everyone's like, "That show was awesome. Didn't know there was a game."
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't either. I mean, you figure pretty much everything had its own game in that era, but
Well, you look at how
yeah,
many Warner Brothers types properties are out there. You got this, you got Tiny Toons, Darkwing.
yeah,
No, Darkwing Duck is Disney. But anyways, you got a
yeah, but
lot
it's
of
kind
like
of that
Disney and
same,
Warner Brothers. I'll just like
yeah,
blanket the whole.
90s cartoons.
But yeah, this was a great cartoon, and I remember watching this every day when it was on. I think it was on after school for the longest time there. So
Mm-hmm.
I just love the things like good idea, bad idea.
Yeah.
Then they would go through like the most dumb situation, or like raging, or no, it wasn't Raging Demon.
Cake talked about
Oh, Sir Francis Cake
the
there.
around the world.
He was the one who talked about the
Yeah.
nations of the world video, or the states. The
Yeah,
only
I
reason
forgot
I
about
know
that.
so many states in the United States is because of Animaniacs.
Yeah, definitely, like, low key educated you on some
Oh yeah,
stuff. And then also, like, you watch the show now and it's still funny as an adult because there's like shit in there that they're like, you know, referencing like Alfred Hitchcock or, you know, gosh, I don't know, like just Casablanca, like stuff that you wouldn't know as a kid, but it still kind of plays and is funny. But like as you grow up and you start to learn things and understand more of our culture, it's like, oh, there's a lot of funny like nods to
yeah.
stuff in
This
here,
was
and
as
it's
good
just
as The Simpsons was for these kind of references, where you watch the
yeah,
cartoon first, and then later down the line in your life, you end up running into the actual source material for the reference there, and it's just like a whole
yes,
different world.
yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, Lawrence of Arabia. That's like that whatever
Yeah.
Animaniacs episode. I don't know if they ever did Lawrence
No,
of Arabia, but I'm sure they
I
did.
can't tell you what they did anymore. It's been so long. I've wiped that out of my
Yeah.
brain. I had to keep the Simpsons knowledge in there.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
for some reason,
that's
I
more
can
important.
something will trigger a Simpsons memory for like every 10 minutes of my life. That show's
Yeah.
gone too long.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so let's get into it. Let's get into the story of the game there.
Yeah. The story of the game, interesting because we mentioned on the information, when we're talking about the games here, there was a Super Nintendo version. I didn't know this until I really started researching it, but there was a Super Nintendo version and a Genesis version, and they were meant to be like kind of coincide with one another. Almost like if you have a Super Nintendo, you have this version of the game and it's got this story. And if you've got the Genesis version, it's different and it's got that story. And unfortunately, like the Super Nintendo version of the game sucks. But the story is that Pinky and the Brain have conspired to try to take over the world, and they've stolen a script. and the pieces of it are spread all over basically the Warner Brothers studio lot. And you have to go through all of these. There's 4 different sets that you have to go through and collect these pieces of script and progress through the game and defeat Pinky in the Brain.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I love Pinky in the Brain. I didn't like him as the antagonist of the story because I never saw Pinky and the Brain as the antagonist, even though they are like they're trying to take over the world. At least Brain is. I always saw him as kind of a bumbling genius.
Yeah, like a gosh, I don't want to use the word anti-hero, but like he's like, he's doomed to fail. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia before it aired.
yeah, it's like he's always scheming, and it's always
Yeah, and
it's
everything he
always
does,
gonna go
like
wrong.
he gets so close every time, and then just Pinky or something just messes it up for him. Usually his own fault.
Right. But yeah, they are, I guess, the primary antagonists. There's a bunch of different,
Oh, there's the
little
usual.
antagonist
There's Ralph, the
bosses.
security guard,
Yeah.
who's going to chase you
Oh,
around. He's
Ralph.
the one that kind of captures you whenever you kind of die. So you don't actually die in this game. You just get sent back to the water tower.
Yeah, it's pretty irritating though,
It is, but you
because
can at
there's a
least go
lot of
back and grab your extra characters, and then you kind of build up continues through a slot machine system.
yeah. That we'll talk about it, but that slot machine can go fuck itself. It's so distracting on the bottom of the screen. It's like every time you pick up a couple coins, it's like dinging and twirling and making sounds. It's like just stop.
See, I didn't even notice it for the longest time.
Oh, I hated it. I hated it.
My God.
There's all kinds of like you read the manual of this book. So we talked about the protagonists obviously are Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. You're running around as all 3 of them. If you listen to our Ren and Stimpy episode, it's kind of the same where you can swap between them, except in the Super Nintendo version, they have no abilities, basically. No special abilities between the 3. In the Sega version, which sounds like it's much better, each one has their own distinct ability that you might need to use at various points in the level. So that's actually much more fun.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we played the not fun one.
Of course. If we'd known about the Sega one, we probably would have played them both and then had a kind of another like Desert Storm,
Yeah.
Jungle Storm, or fuck's sakes, Jungle Strike and Desert Strike type of episode.
Yeah,
God.
those ones. The helicopter shooty game.
Yeah, the Choplifter sequel.
Yeah.
That's where they're going to get Zodiac to write in again.
Well, actually, that's okay. Let's make one small mistake every episode so that we get to run the correction corner.
Yeah, exactly. Very happy with that community clip I put in there.
Yeah, that's a good one. NPCs, there really aren't any. Like there are, and it's funny because I wanted to mention this. They fill the game manual with like all these characters that you're gonna see, right? Like there's like the Warner Brothers exec. There's the professor,
Dr. Scratch and Sniff.
Dr. Scratch and Sniff. Yeah. There's like Mindy and her dog.
The nurse.
Then there's shoot, who else? There's the nurse. How could we forget? But they're very like they're just kind of standing there in random spots in some of these levels, and they don't do shit.
Well, they're NPCs.
Well, I understand that,
you want to
but like
the
they
game
don't.
for you?
No, but it would be nice if like you found the nurse and then like you ogle her or whatever fucking Yakko does, and then she maybe like gives you a piece of the script would be cool.
Yeah, well,
she did fucking nothing.
We'll get into the script and finding those things, but that would make it too easy.
Yeah,
Especially when Yakko there is like tongue out and pants the halves unzipped. It's not a good time to get a script.
No. She probably held on to it. It's like, I just don't want to be anywhere near this.
Oh god. It's a
let's talk about
different
these
time.
levels. Yeah, it's a much different time. We'll talk about these levels. You start in this practice world where the studio exec is basically like sending you on your mission.
Yeah, and
right?
this level isn't anything but a way to get used to the controls.
Yeah, and how fucking shitty they are. Because I got so frustrated. Like this was the last week when I first played it to start getting ready for this. I played it for about, I don't know, I'd say like 15 minutes or so to start out with, and like I could not figure out how, and the manual doesn't tell you how to play this game at all, but like obviously, what's his name, Frank, the security guard,
Ralph,
uh Ralph, god
okay.
damn it, whatever, Ralph,
Did
Frank,
you actually
Francis,
play the
whatever his
game,
name
or are you
was.
playing a different one?
I was playing this game because like I was having a hard time because I would assume that you're able to actually defeat enemies, and you really can't. It's mostly avoidance based. uh like not really a combat system to speak of. You're mostly trying to
Well, that
avoid enemies and not defeat
okay, I'm
them.
going to give one thing to the game on that one is Yakko, Wacko, and Dot are never beating anybody up. They're usually avoiding everything. So
I guess so.
making it
Yeah,
an
they're
avoidance
being
game, yeah, I
chased a
guess you
lot.
could have like a jump mechanic where you land on an enemy there and it flips over and dies or something. But no,
Or just like
I get the whole
stun
point
them
of
for
the
a bit.
non-combat.
Yeah. It just didn't work for me. I don't know. Like to stun them a little bit would be kind of cool so you could at least get away, but like their recovery time was very quick. And so you could jump on their head and like a silver coin would pop out for the slot machine, but then like they're like right back at chasing you. So it took me a while to get a hold of, how exactly the best way to avoid Ralph was.
Yeah, just jump over top them. Did you find the
And he
secret door at the beginning of level one?
No, of course
Yeah,
not.
right at
Where
the
was it?
beginning, there's a pot to your left, plant pot, and to your left, and you push it, and a door appears.
Oh, come
You get a
on.
bunch of
Was there a
slot
script
machine
piece in there?
coins there for your slot machine noises.
Oh, okay. Then I don't
Yeah,
care.
but you need the slot machine to get the continues. So
Right, yeah. I mean, there was no lack of coins, which was nice. So, I mean, if you're kind of gaining a little bit of proficiency in the game, you could rack up quite a few continues, and then it's a little bit more manageable. But there are other things that make it not so manageable.
yeah, and
Um,
when you finish the practice stage there, you get to this overworld, which is the Warner
yeah,
Brothers lot. And you have a bunch of studios you can go into, and you can do them in any order. That was kind of a nice feature about this game.
yeah, I did like that. I always appreciate being able to select, like Mega Man famously does that. I think Gunstar Heroes does that as well.
Yeah, and did you do it in any particular order, or did you just kind of jump around like I did to try them all out before you actually tried to take one on?
I think I did it in the order that we have the notes here, because that's I stuck with them until I could finish them, and I think I did them in kind of a weird order because the one that I found the most difficult was the one that I did second, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, every level was a little bit different, but they're all doable right from the beginning. You don't need anything special. Like you don't get power ups in this game, so being able to do it in
No, and it
every order is
also,
just simply just whatever the way you feel like doing it.
yeah, and I mean, either way you're going to be unprepared because there's different parts of each level. As you progress through each stage of the level, I guess, for lack of a better term, it's like a complete ass pull sometimes, where it's like it's not been explained what to do. Like, how would I know to do that? Like you get to the next part and you like immediately die because like the floor falls out from under you. It's like, well, how was I supposed to know that the floor was gonna fall out from under me? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, in a way, I guess you can say you have three lives in this game as well because you got Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, and you'll only lose one of them at a time. Ralph will get them and
Yeah.
he'll put them in the water tower, but we'll get to the water tower later.
Yeah. At some point it just controlled so poorly that whatever. We'll get to that. But the first one I did was the Adventure Studio. So as you're walking around the lot, there's different studios. They're not labeled outright, so you do have to kind of walk up to it for a little sign to pop up, and then you can select it. But
Yeah, and before you get into
uh,
the adventure studio, and we'll talk that one,
yeah,
did you notice Pinky and the Brain were actually going into one of the studios? Yeah,
yes,
and that's how I actually started. And I think the one they went into was Fantasy Stage.
ugh. Yeah. Okay.
Anyways,
I
we'll
hated that
get
one,
we'll
by the
do
way.
this in like a random order. The order that you did it in is fine, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh yeah. No, I was just saying yuck because Fantasy Studio fucking sucked.
Oh yeah, it did.
They all did, but that one especially. Um, yeah. Do you want to get into Adventure
Yeah, we'll do it
Studio?
in the order you did it in. That way, at least we stay consistent.
Yeah. So, um, I mean, basically, it's like each of these studios has a theme, and it's pretty fun because I mean, I guess that is a fun part of the game is that the graphics look great, the animations are cool, and some of the like jokes that are laid into the presentation make it kind of
Yeah, and
fun.
I'll
So
say
yeah.
honestly, like we're not at that point where we just kind of pick away at the rest of the thing, but the graphics in this game are actually really good for its time.
Yeah, they are. They're very good. It's like Unbuckled said this up top. Like it was like I think it was Unbuckled or Super Dave. It was like watching an episode of the show
Yeah, it
that you
gorgeous,
hated.
just absolutely gorgeous. It's one of those testaments to don't overcomplicate things, so it looks very cartoony still.
Yeah, it's great.
Let's get into Adventure
Um,
Studio. We're off topic again.
yeah. So basically, the first portion of it is avoiding like stomping gorilla and dinosaur feet. And then you have to fight kind of I guess I would call this a boss battle, but those gorilla hands that are on either side of the screen, and then there's like this little weird doll looking guy in a helicopter. I
Yeah,
don't
and
really
you
understand what the hell that
he
was.
drops nuts, and you have to hit him with the nuts, right?
Yeah, and that was one of the first things that I guess bothered me was there is a control mechanic where you can pick up something and throw it, but it's used so infrequently that and so few and far between that you almost forget that that's a thing that you would do.
Oh,
Um,
I never forgot. I just instinctively knew to pick it up.
well, yeah, but the next time you see that in a boss battle or in any sort of fight is like the end of the game. Like it's like it's not used again. That's the part where like the game lacks consistency to
Okay, yeah,
me. That
I'll give
that
you
that
that one.
bothers me. Yeah. So after the gorilla, you're swinging through the treetops. That part was not too bad. Um, although there are like I think there were monkeys or birds or something that could knock you back, and that could be pretty frustrating.
Yeah, and this is going to bring us to our first point is in the levels, particularly this one right now. Like you're on part two of this, at a part or four parts of this level, and there's two pieces of script hidden amongst the level that are just off the beaten path.
Yeah.
And did you find them?
I found I think one by climbing about as high in the treetops as I
Yeah,
could.
and the second one is
Yep.
just a further, like up top, down the way. As you complete the level, it's like you have to stay high again.
Oh, do you? I think I found one in the Adventure Studio swinging. There's a part where I think the character's name is Mindy and her dog,
Yeah,
right? Like the girl that's always in danger and like the dog like stresses out trying to save her all the time. Um does some weird thing where the dog is swinging and then I kind of like bumped into him and he coughed up a script piece.
okay, yeah, I got three script pieces in this. So yeah, you probably found the third one.
Yeah, like we should have run like an over under on how many script pieces we actually found because I got nowhere
Nobody can
near.
guess that. It's so inconsistent.
Yeah, I got nowhere near. Apparently, there's like 24 pieces. I had like five when I was
Yeah,
done with
and
all the
it's not
levels.
one of those things where you just get a piece of script for finishing the level. They're all hidden.
Right, and in a very arbitrary way, as we'll get into, like some of the ones that I ended up finding. I played through, I think, both fantasy and sci-fi studios without getting any script pieces at all.
Yeah,
Didn't find
that
any of
sounds
them.
about right.
Yeah.
Part three. So there's a script at the beginning of part three. You're going to jump on a trampoline, and you'll find a second one as you're running through the level, avoiding Ralph.
What? Come on.
Yeah, seriously, we're up to five scripts already, and you found one of them.
I think I found yeah, one or two. Come on. Yeah, like just there and I knew kind of in the back of my mind as I was dealing with these like I found Ralph absolutely obnoxious. So whenever there was a stretch where you had to avoid Ralph, I just tried to get through it, and I'm sure you had to like dash, some of those boxes, and there would be a piece in there, but I just couldn't be bothered. At that point, I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, that was the
uh,
thing. Most of the time, you're just trying to stay alive, right?
right, and then or you would um be trying to avoid him, and then maybe your attention would lapse, or like your reaction, you just wouldn't react in time, and he would just
Or
catch
you
you.
biff
It's
your
like,
jump or something, you land in front of him, and he grabs you, and next
right.
thing you know, you have to restart the whole thing again.
Yeah, like in front of him instead of on top of him or whatever. Yeah, he sucks. Um, but how do you like the mine carts?
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not
Yeah,
against minecart levels. I kind of like the dynamics, and it reminds me of games like Donkey Kong Country. It
yeah,
was Donkey Kong Country that had the minecart level.
yes, it did. Yeah, it does. It does remind you of a better game, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
and I like how you put it.
yeah,
But no, the minecarting was fine. There's vampires and icicles throughout. And again, this whole thing takes place on the Warner Brothers studio. So everything is done in the style of a prop.
yeah. It's like a prop or like a movie theater set, and
The
that
part
part of it's
at the
cool.
end there where you had to run downhill to get away from the boulder, how'd you find that?
Uh, I didn't love it, but I figured it out. I mean, there was very specific points to run forward and slow down, and that's part of what I think would make this game overly challenging. If obviously we emulated it, and I used save states to just kind of get through it, but this is one aspect of the game where like it's kind of like when we're talking about Battletoads. Like there's a very specific way to play through these parts, like where you have to move forward, where you have to jump, and where
Yeah,
you have to
it's
slow down.
repetition.
It is repetition, and it's like in order to get that repetition without save stating or some sort of help along at this point, like you'd be playing this game for hours, and I don't think I'd want to do that.
All right. That, anyways, once you get past that boulder, that's it. That's the end of the adventure studio.
Yeah, and then you leave the studio and wonder how many pieces of fucking script you left behind.
In your case, about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Where'd you go next?
From there I went to Fantasy Studio, and immediately was disheartened by the speed bikes, basically speed bikes, but it's broomsticks.
But did you not see the trick?
Following the rabbit, of course.
Yeah, it took me forever to realize the rabbit was giving me the path.
Oh yeah, yeah. I figured that out right away. It was just still sucked.
Yeah, there's a rabbit with a stopwatch who leads you
Yep.
as you have 3 levels to go through, upper, mid, and lower. There's obstacles in your way, and the rabbit will avoid the obstacles and basically guide you as what you need to do next. If you keep your eye on the rabbit and react when he reacts, you tend to make it through the level without a problem.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like, this is a, what would you call this? Like a 2.5D action platformer, I guess, or just platformer.
Just a
Um,
side-scrolling platformer. That's all it is.
well, I know, but there's
Well,
like
even
a
with the different levels, it's no different than like TMNT 4 or something where you have
right.
that up and down plane, but it's still flat.
Right, but this to me seemed a little more rigid, whereas like playing Turtles in Time, that kind of forward and back on the screen felt a lot smoother.
Oh yeah,
This,
this is definitely done in, like I said, the 3 levels: the upper, mid, and the
yeah,
lower.
you're
There's no
definitely
veering from that in any part of the game.
right. Yeah, that's where I was going with that, because it's like you're definitely like, if you're on the top, the middle, or the bottom, it's like you're on rails, and then if you move up, then you're on the next level. There's no fade between them. So that's where sometimes the broomstick got like a little bit tricky, because it's like if you move too late, then you're still stuck in that lane and you're not moving. It's not a fluid movement, basically.
Yeah, it's what game am I thinking of that does that?
Does it
It's not
suck?
going to come back to me in time, and I'm definitely not going to sit here and just go dead
No.
silence for the
If
next
it
15
comes to you, let me
minutes
know.
while
But
I think about it. But
I'm curious to know if it sucks as much as this one.
oh
Probably
man,
not.
so stay tuned for the surprise reveal of Sam Beagle's score.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All
How
right. So, anyways,
great I
we're
did.
done the broomsticks. You
Yep.
finally got past it after following the rabbit and realizing that you only have three options: the top, middle, or the lower.
Yep. And then you've got this like weird Falcor looking cloud dragon thing that you have to kind of like ride across platforms. And this part was just so fucking frustrating.
Yeah, you messaged me and asked me if I got to this part, and I was like, "You mean the water level?" And like, no, the cloud level. I was talking about the same level. I thought it was water below me.
Oh yeah, no, it's like clouds and you have to there was a trick to kind of like mounting this dragon, but like sometimes you had to be on the back of it in order to be above the clouds long enough for the next one to come up. And jumping from dragon to dragon was like the worst. You know, one might come up on like a different plane, or like if your thumb like didn't hit the D-pad in the right way, you would end up like jumping up and over and then like falling to it was just it's a fucking nightmare. It's the
Yeah, I
worst.
always had to go to the back of the dragon. Like you could walk towards the tail, and I would wait until it was almost in the clouds, and you jump, and then the next dragon's usually up by then.
Right. But then like jumping from that to the next dragon was just a, an ordeal sometimes. I felt that I would end up just missing the jump completely more than because it's one of those things where just like in Super Mario RPG when we were talking about how I didn't particularly enjoy some of the platforming aspects of that game, you have to follow that shadow on the ground. Um, but it helped a lot more in Super Mario RPG than it did in this because this game sucks in Super Mario
Oh, I
RPG.
never even noticed the shadow either.
Yeah, there's a shadow. There definitely is like a little circular shadow, and it helps sometimes, but other times it just is like it's useless to look
See,
at.
I had a
So
problem with the birds. They kept pushing. Like when you hit the
yeah,
bird, it pushes you back, and it dumps you into the clouds. I guess, not
yes,
the water. But
yes,
the birds were my problem in this part.
yeah, and the birds don't go away because the next once you get past this stupid cloud dragon, then you go to this crumbling castle wall that's like falling apart from behind you. You have to as quickly as possible move and platform through this castle as it's like falling away behind you, and it's like
Yeah, it's a no stop part. You just go, go, go.
right, but it's one of those things where like if you get hit or slow down at all, you're gonna fall off the back, and no matter how far along you've gotten, you're gonna go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, well,
It's
it
not great.
wasn't fun, but it was doable.
Yeah, and then we've got this oh, there's like a little bit of a platforming section here. I think I found a script in this part by getting up as high as I could. Um, there were it's like card themed, kind of Alice in Wonderland like. So there's anvils that are falling and the little card soldiers. You got to avoid everything there. And then there's some cards kind of like stuck into the walls, and they work like springboards. Um, and so there is one point where you can either jump down or you can jump over onto these cards and get up higher. And there was a script piece up there towards the end of the level. So I got that
Uh,
one.
my notes only has one you get at the end, but
That must have been it. So that brought my total at this point, I think, to like 3 out of the possible.
24.
Yeah.
You are a monster, sir. But there's a boss
Yeah.
fight at the end of this one, and it's a king, I guess, would be the best term.
Yeah, like a
You have
King of
this
Hearts.
anvil that's coming down, and you have to trick the king to land under or be under the anvil as it comes crashing down.
Yeah, it took me a while to get the hang of this.
Yeah, it wasn't a small anvil either. Like it's a oversized anvil, so it's
Yeah.
kind of
Uh,
ridiculously large. Wasn't too hard, but you had to avoid getting hit yourself.
yeah, you couldn't get hit by the king and you couldn't actually be under the anvil. Obviously, or else you get squished. But um yeah, it was fine. Once you kind of play it enough times in a row to figure out the best timing, it's not too bad, but it's irritating. It's just not like a fun it's not a fun boss battle. I like to have my own be the master of my own destiny, you know what I mean? Like instead of using something or using avoidance to kind of trick an enemy like that, I'd rather just kick their ass.
Well, that's not what the Animaniacs stand for. You, sir, are a monster.
Well, we're opposed, and then we can agree to disagree, and they can stay in their fucking water tower.
Yeah, oh, they would cause less problems, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they sure would. Like this
Except
game
for
wouldn't
the
have been made.
overly smart rat or lab rat that's trying to destroy everything.
Yeah, just let him do his thing. It's
Yeah,
fine.
why not? All right, what was the next level you've done so far? We got Venture and Fantasy Studios. Where'd you go next?
I went to Sci-Fi next. And this one had a lot of fun. Like we were talking about how good the graphics are. This was a cool level.
Yeah, and it's a 7-parter too.
Yeah, it was a long one.
It was, and that means there's going to be a ton of scripts. You'd think.
I didn't find any.
Seriously?
No. It was fucking ridiculous. I didn't find any. But
Okay, well,
yeah.
the first script at the beginning of the Sci-Fi Studio is on a ledge near the beginning. The second one is in a dummy beside the stairs. The third script is on top of the structure, that big building. You have to get on top of it and you run all the way to the left instead of entering the door.
Of course.
That is 3 scripts in the matter of 1 part.
Well, guess what? When I saw a door, I just went into it because I
Now,
didn't
that's
want to
what
be
I
in
did
there
too. The
anymore.
only
Yeah.
reason I know about the other scripts is I went and searched to where the scripts locations were for my notes.
Let's put it to the left of the door off screen because as soon as the player sees the door, they're gonna want to go through it so they can stop playing this fucking game.
Well, I mean, if you're trying to make a special item, I get the reasoning, right?
Oh, it's the worst. I
Anyways,
don't know.
part 2, downhill, avoid the boulders. This isn't a big boulder like the last time. This is a bunch of small ones that kind of go at different speeds. Some roll, some bounce.
Did you notice they were Death Stars?
I didn't.
Yeah, they
Actually,
were.
I was too busy dying too many times.
Yeah, this was a tough part, but like there was like a little xenomorph alien from Alien. There were like the little things jumping out of the eggs were like those larvae from Alien that like attach to the face and like lay eggs in your stomach. And then there was like a C3PO and R2D2 knockoff like right in that first part. And then when you get to the second part running downhill, it's like a bunch of prop Death Stars that like get cut loose and start rolling down the hill.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I love that. I thought that was funny. And
All
in the
right, well,
background, there's a space battle going on.
I guess we're in the sci-fi zone, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I loved it. I love this zone. It was great. Aside from like how bad the game sucked, it was pretty to look at.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of pretty to look at, the next part is another Dodge Ralph part.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
and you got to do that until the UFO arrives. So you're just kind of going back and forth for a bit.
Yeah, I was confused by this part. I was dodging him, and I was just kind of like, when is this gonna end? Like I, uh, once the like when I got abducted, I was like, oh thank fuck, I don't want to be in this room with Ralph anymore.
Yeah, well, it was kind of not a fun mechanic to that Dodge Ralph, and they use it kind of as a filler.
Yeah, it's like I think he appears in every level at least once, just as
Yeah,
like a portion that like to show that he's chasing you throughout the studio and he'll at least try to corner you in each one.
yeah, exactly. But after you dodge Ralph and the UFO arrives, you go to part 4, which is the elevator, which has lightning and eggs.
Yeah,
Uh,
this part wasn't too bad.
no, you have the 3 levels to avoid by being the bottom, middle, or the top, and you run through till you get to part 5.
Yeah, and so it would kind of there were parts where like the little electricity beams would go across, but then it was dropping the little alien eggs, and I found that like the alien eggs were easier to avoid than you would think. Just by like standing in one spot, and when the egg launched, you just step to the left or right, and that's pretty much all you have to do because it's going to kind of zero in on you and fall exactly where you're standing. So as long as you just move to the left or right, they're not going to hit you.
And that kind of makes it cartoony.
Yeah, and it was fine. That part was not
After
bad.
you're done that, you have to. Part 5 has a truck chasing you.
The truck.
I've written down backwards conveyor belt. I never actually got through this level. This is kind of where I bowed out.
Yeah, I don't remember. Oh, I think I skipped that in my notes because I was so zeroed in on the mini boss battle after that. I didn't have much trouble with the truck, but the robot fight was pretty annoying.
Yeah, the
Um,
robot fight. Out of curiosity, I went and checked a playthrough there, and that looked like a big old pile of garbage.
it was stupid. At least I will give them credit for this. They did flash a little sign on the bottom corner of the screen that pointed to the 3 switches and said hit 5 times. So you have to hit each of them 5 times while this robot is like slowly chasing you. So you have to kind of go to the far left of the screen, come down and kind of fake them out, and then make sure you're in the right lane, and then just kind of dash the switch as many times as you can, and then just rinse and repeat. But it's just like so slow and annoying that like I would find myself I didn't get it on the first try, even though like mechanically it's easy. It's just like the slowness and my desire to like finish it would get in my own head, and I would just end up like he would just like slowly catch me because I was just in the wrong spot. Uh,
All
it's
right.
it's a dumb fight.
Yeah, but it's not even the end of the level because you have to avoid Ralph again after.
Yay. Yeah.
But there's a script after the bonus door on the left in a box.
And I didn't get it because I couldn't be bothered. And that's where the nurse was. So had
Oh,
to
so
be in the
you're
box.
busy ogling the nurse there, you perv.
Right. Yeah. Me and Yakko over here we're picking our jaw up off the floor. Yeah, and then the end this part where you were avoiding you said you had a hard time with those Death Stars. I had a hard time with these gears. Um it would send like 2 or 3. There was basically a big one behind you to take away like half the screen, so you could only work with kind of the right side of the screen, which is constantly moving obviously because it's chasing you. And then they would send like 2 to 3 bouncing gears at like different speeds. So there was like very specific spots where they would converge, and you would have to just kind of like learn when to speed up or slow
Yeah,
down.
trial and error again.
Very, very frustrating.
Yeah, but in my notes here, I said after all that goodness, you end up running into a Charlie Chaplin-esque fellow who gives you another piece of script.
That fucker didn't give me a script.
Really?
No. I wonder if you have to do something specific in order for him to give you that, but I
Oh,
didn't
maybe
get
you
one.
got to jump on his head or some shit. Who knows?
Yeah, or something.
This game is not worth going back to figure it out.
No, I'm so done.
All right, so we're down to the last studio.
Yeah, this the last one I did was the aquatic studio. It was not great. Um oh, here's where I got real irritated because like here I am at the end of the game kind of finding out that like you really have to do all this like stupid arbitrary bullshit to come up with some of these script pieces that like I mean, yeah, you can hide them or put some of them in kind of plain sight, I guess, or whatever, but like there were points where collecting a certain gold coin would just generate a script piece. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, and the gold coin's only use was the slot machine there. So
Yeah.
if you hate the slot machine, you're not going to get the gold coin.
Well, and here's another thing that I kind of noticed was that those gold coins that produce script pieces had like a different kind of glitter to them. They had like a purple blue glitter where the regular gold coins didn't.
No, I
And so
never noticed.
yeah, and it was like that's another thing where we go back to the inconsistency because nowhere else in this fucking game are there any coins with blue or purple glitter that would produce a script. So why would I know how to do that? Or like, I guess it's just a bunch of trial and error. They want you to play the game over and over again, but this game
Artificially
sucks.
lengthening the game
I'm
through
not going to play this game
repetition.
again.
Yeah.
Konami, you made Metal Gear Solid. You made
And Castlevania.
and did they make Contra?
No, that was Capcom, I believe.
Oh, I thought it was Konami.
You know what?
Correction
I
corner. But anyways, but like that's and Turtles in Time for fuck's sake. Like Konami makes great video games and made great video games in the 90s. Like who crapped this out and said this was fine? Did anyone play test
oh,
this
you were
game?
right, Konami.
Yeah, they make
Yeah,
great
sorry.
games.
I don't know why I thought it was Capcom, and maybe I've been reading too much Capcom crap today.
Just fucking ridiculous. You should be ashamed of yourself, Capcom. Or not Capcom, Konami. You too, Capcom. I like
Everybody
your
be
games
ashamed of
too.
yourself.
Damn it. All
We'll
right.
get into
Yeah.
why next week.
Shame on you, Konami. All right. So you have to raft and avoid these sharks. So like basically there's 2 ways across the water. Water obviously kills you, right? Because why wouldn't it? You have to either raft and you just mash the dash button to make the raft move, or you jump on these barrels. And luckily, luckily, or I would not have even considered playing the aquatic studio. Once you're on the barrel, you're locked on it. So you can't like overcompensate and fall off in either direction. It's just you jump on the barrel and you press backwards to go forwards.
Yeah, it just switches your controls.
Yeah, which is fine. But like once you're on it, you're locked on it, which I appreciated.
There
Because
was two
otherwise,
pieces of
yeah.
script at the beginning as well. You just had to jump on other rafts and kind of backtrack a little bit.
God damn it. Nope, I didn't get those. I just got the weird coin ones.
Oh, well,
Um,
really missed out. These are the ones that would have sealed the game for you.
yeah. There's a point where you have to avoid these sharks. There's a couple of stretches on the raft that are long enough that the shark will definitely catch you unless you do something. And I found that there was a very weird, specific movement in order to avoid the shark. And I don't know if there's any other way to do it, but you would basically, as the shark is approaching you, you try to move slightly forward. You basically stop dashing and you just tap forward a little bit to like walk up to the end of the raft right before the shark jumps up, and then immediately start mashing the dash button again. So like you just kind of like ease yourself forward, let the shark do its thing, and then just like as soon as you start mashing it again, it'll kind of like recorrect you back to the middle of the raft and you can start paddling again. I don't think it's a good it's not well designed at all. There doesn't seem to be any legitimate way to avoid the shark. I think that's a really weird way to avoid the shark.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't remember having problems with them.
Yeah, that's the only way that I could think of to, because if you jumped, unless it's just a very precise jump, if you just jump straight up in the air, you come down and hit the shark before the shark goes down itself. So you die basically.
All right.
um,
Well, there you
that
have
was
it. Don't jump straight up and down for avoiding sharks.
Yeah, that was the only way I could figure it out, and I thought it was dumb. I wanted to make note of that.
All
Uh,
right. So
yeah,
you finish that part and you move on to a pirate ship.
pirate ship, which is pretty easy to avoid the little swinging pirates. They're basically kind of like the birds, where they don't kill you, but they bump you and they can knock you into pits and stuff like that. The squid fights were kind of fun. So there's like these squids that come up the side, and you have to avoid their tentacles, and you can fire a cannon at them by jumping on the cannon. I didn't think these were too bad. Although I think to pad the level, they repeated it way too many times. There was like 3 separate sections with just a random squid that would come up. And then the boss fight at the end is a squid with like a little pirate guy on it.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's pretty much this whole level. They just again they extended the one part to make it long and
yes.
quick boss fight and you're done. You've done all the studios, which means you have to take all the script you found.
Oh wait, there was one thing about the squid,
Was there?
the last one. When the tentacles slammed down, it would make the cannon move, and I didn't realize at first that you could push it back into position, and it got stuck on the far right side, and I couldn't move it again. So I had to actually like reset because I couldn't move the cannon out of the corner. And I also couldn't hit the fucking squid because the thing was shooting to the right. It was so fucking irritating. So I had to make sure to work in to my pattern that I would like every couple of shots, like push the cannon back a little bit.
Kind of sounds like you were your own worst enemy in this game at points.
I think this game is its own worst enemy. I had nothing to do with it.
All right. Are anything else on the Aquatica studio?
No.
All right,
Let's
because
get
then
into it.
that's the last studio, like I
Yeah.
mentioned, and it's off to the editing room.
Yeah.
And I thought I wrote the notes for some reason for this. It very much looks like how I would normally do it, but then I started noticing some of the stuff I'd never say, and it all comes down to the editing room. I
Yeah.
actually was trying to stifle a chuckle here just reading it.
Oh, because I was so pissed when I wrote this. It's a fucking boss rush. So basically, you have to fight the same bosses we've talked about. The robot with the stupid switches, which was the same. The gorilla was the same. The squid was the same. And the only one that was different was the fucking King of Hearts with the anvils, and he was obnoxiously fast and he was bigger. Instead of being like a little King of Hearts, it was like a giant knight with like a little
The
king head on top.
King of Clubs, wasn't it?
Oh, whatever. I don't know. Fucking
No, I mean
cards
like
or
the
something.
boss rush version was a King of Clubs, or the original was a King of Hearts.
Okay. I'm glad you noticed that.
Oh, I thought I noticed. That's what I wrote in my notes, but
it
maybe I
moved
miswrote.
it moved so much faster. So like you kind of like you couldn't rely on the same type of pattern um that you established in the first one. And it was just weird and again inconsistent that they don't make all of the bosses harder. They just like randomly made that one harder. I
There's
don't
always
get
got
it.
to be one.
That should be either all or nothing.
Yeah.
Pick a
Well, you
lane.
beat them all, so
I did
obviously they
beat them
weren't
all.
that hard.
I beat them all, but I didn't beat the final boss, which was Pinky in the Brain. I played it a little bit, and it was a hard no for me. It was just obnoxious.
Yeah, but I always found it funny. He wears that metal tuxedo, or
Yes.
like that metal suit
Yes.
body that he does in the show. That was a good
Yeah.
touch.
I did like that. And then it also had like the legs would retract and it had like a rocket booster. He would fly around.
Yeah, he
Um
slammed down, dropped scripts.
yes, it would drop scripts. It would drop when he slammed down, like nuts and bolts would come out of his suit that you would pick up and throw at him and then get script pieces. So I don't know
Yeah,
if that's a way to make up for script pieces that you missed in the main game, or if they just are happen to be holding the last like 3 or 4.
who knows? Be something I'd have to look up. Never
Yeah,
even
I didn't get
thought
into
about
it.
it that way. I just thought maybe it was scripts from him.
Yeah, I would assume they just happen to have the last bits of it, but um, and then they would drop these weird little doll people that would pin you down, and then he would just run into you and kill you, which sucked because apparently I did watch a playthrough of the final battle, and I guess there was a way to like get those off of you. I just couldn't figure out what the fuck it was, and at that point, I didn't care.
Yeah.
So.
I watched like I said, I didn't finish one of the studios, so I watched the ending of the game via YouTube. And after the credits, I noticed there was a after credit scene with Pinky and the Brain kind of wrapping up for the day, like they would in the show.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good touch.
That was a very nice touch. And again, I like Pinky and the Brain, so it was kind of a slap in the dick to have them as the antagonist for this game.
Yeah, and the weird thing is like I didn't finish it, but like had I finished it, would I have even gotten an ending, or would it have been like you didn't collect all the scripts, go fuck yourself? Like,
You suck. Game
yeah,
over.
yeah. So I don't know. Do we want to get into some final thoughts?
Well, before we get into the final thoughts, we have to go over like kind of our feelings on the things like the graphics and the music and all that. Where the
Yeah.
game
Oh,
might
full
make a
thoughts,
little bit
not
of a
final.
redemption
Yeah.
in your eyes.
Well, we talked about the graphics. Graphics were amazing.
Yeah, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but yeah, the graphics were pretty good for a game of its time.
Yeah. They were bright. They were colorful. They
The
had a lot
characters
of,
moved quite animatedly, so it was a
yeah.
very nice touch.
Actually, if I will take one knock on the graphics, I thought that they were so good and the animations were so good that I found some of the stuff distracting. Um, I found Yakko,
Never
Wacko,
happy,
and
are we?
what?
You're never happy, are you?
Not with this game. This game really, I did not like it at all. Um,
Oh man. I
like,
found nothing wrong with the graphics personally. I didn't find anything distracting personally, but I mean,
oh,
each your own, right?
usually like there were points where there was a little bit of slowdown, and I think it's because the game was trying to handle animating and rendering all this shit that's out there. And I think Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, when you have all three of them, they get in the way sometimes on the screen where you're trying to avoid something and they're just kind of like standing there running, distraction on it. And it was
Yeah. Well,
cool, but I didn't appreciate that part of it. But yes, it did look very cartoon like.
Yeah,
and
but,
call it
and the music wasn't too bad. Like I was going over the soundtrack today. There's nothing that really jumps out at me, but at least they got the theme song, they got the Pinky on the Brain in there, so
yeah.
it was nice.
I did get sick of the Animaniacs theme on loop when it was on, but it was fine. I mean, it was just kind of boilerplate, you know, just yeah,
Well,
whatever.
when I first played the
16
game,
bit.
I had to have the volume down because I was in a public place and I didn't want that repetitive video game music just to be, drilling into the ears of people around me.
Yeah, but you'll pee in the corner on the bus. Come on.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different avenue, right? It's sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and one of
Right.
them is not annoying people. Again, you can walk away from me peeing on the bus. You can't walk away from the music from a video game.
Right. Right.
Like
Uh,
Unbuckled said, the theme song's gonna be in his head for a while now.
yeah, well, you're welcome. Uh,
Gameplay, you didn't like the battle system in
yeah.
this game at all. You were
Nope.
just absolutely adamant that a way to attack would be what would have probably redeemed this game a little in your eyes.
Right, because I think in this, I was reading up on the Sega version, and I don't know if Yakko Wacko and Dot's powers actually can be used to defeat enemies, but like one of them has a mallet. Like they're cartoons. Can I have a mallet? Yeah, it's not going to kill anyone. Just flatten them and then let you
Well, you
run
got to
away a
remember,
little
this
bit.
is the
Like,
time when Nintendo didn't like blood on their system.
well, what did it say? I didn't say who said anything about blood. Just smash them with a mallet and they flatten. It's just like a cartoon thing.
Oh, of course, of course. That's
Yeah,
how it
no, this
normally goes.
this uh this kind of avoidance dodging attack method just freaking sucks. I don't like it. It's not fun.
Yeah. World movement and level design there, pretty standard. You move on the overworld. There
Yep.
isn't anything to get in your way.
But there's
Level
fun like
design,
yeah.
I didn't mind some of the platforming. I know your notes here say you didn't mind it either, but most part, I was not a big fan of the overall level design.
Yeah, it's a lot of samey like cut and paste repeat stuff. I didn't like some of the stuff where it was like you were supposed to jump onto like a narrow platform or like move up or down the plane to like, diagonally jump was just trash. Um Not good. A lot of like running or like I called it like speed bike style bullshit, like the mine cart or running from the boulders or the broomsticks, like a lot of that kind of padding, I think. Just not the most fun.
Yeah, okay. I can't disagree with that at all. Um, Difficulty you have written down too difficult for an Animaniacs game, and I agree with that. It should have
Yeah.
been targeted at kids, and it just requires a level of exploration that most kids just wouldn't do. They would just do what was in front of them, like you said. If there's a door, you go in the door.
Yeah, like who's going through and like trying to avoid Ralph enough to break every single box on the screen. Like no one's doing that. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
Um
Controls are frustrating, easy to fall off stuff. I'm gonna let you have the last word on the frustrations for the game, and I might go grab a beer during your rant here. I think I have
That's like,
about
yeah.
15 minutes.
This is a filibuster. No, uh, this game this game sucks. I definitely put a couple of things as big frustrations. I hated the slot machine. It was always going. It was always making obnoxious sounds. Um, Apparently, like in the manual, like it flips between different characters, and like if you were to get like Yakko, Wacko, and Dot on the slot machine, you'd get like a continue, or you'd get your characters back, or something like
And the
that. But
slot
like,
machine is always there. It's not something you find
no,
as you progress through the level. It's always on the bottom of your screen, and every time you get enough coins, it automatically
it
goes
just starts rotating. Apparently, you can stop it. Like you can
with the
actually
L
pay
button.
attention to it and kind of play the slot machine. But who got time for that shit? Like, why would you do that? I guess I don't know. Like, and then there would be points where it would get to like pinky, 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 or brain, 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 or whatever. And then it would like take something from you, like take the rest of your coins. It would be like, I didn't like it. Did you ever watch that Always Sunny episode where they do like family fight or whatever?
Oh yeah, I just went past that one.
Yes, and like okay, so like Dennis answers the question wrong, and
Yeah.
it's like he's
Ah,
like
that buzzard. That buzzard
I
is
don't
just drilling right into my
yeah
brain.
I don't I don't like that. That was how I felt with that stupid buzzing.
I'm gonna go a
Any-
little off topic here. I was watching a recent episode of It's Always Sunny there, where Dennis finds out about his son, and
yeah.
he faked his name in North Dakota as Brian. And I
Yes.
found it kind of funny because my brother's name is Dennis, and obviously I'm Brian. So all I could
Ah.
hear the whole time is our names being swapped back and forth.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Again,
funny.
that's off topic, but still more interesting than Animaniacs. Let's sum it up, Sam. I'm going to
Yeah.
go first because you already got the frustrations. I'll
Yeah. There
give it a
was.
score, and that way you can sit there and feel guilty for giving it a 0.
Yeah. You want to get? Wait. You want to give it a score first, or me?
Yeah, I'll go first because
All right.
you know everybody's hotly anticipating your high score you're about to give it.
Yeah. You just wait.
But to quickly summarize my thoughts on the game, it's a fun little game that gets in its own way. It's got some good elements there. The scripts should be more obvious or maybe even linear to get, or you should be able to see them at least on the screen and have to figure out how the fuck do I get up there.
Yeah.
That would be more interesting than taking random routes and finding a script off in the upper corner of someplace. This game for me is going to get not a good score. It's going to get about a 3 out of 10. I'm not going to give it a 0 because it's got good graphics. The music is decent, even though it is repetitive. And I like some of the story elements of the game itself. So 3 out of 10 for me. What are you going to say, Ralph? Not Ralph. Fuck. What's your
Oh,
name
don't call
again?
me Ralph. Don't call me
Sam.
Ralph. I can't stand Ralph. He's the worst. I give this game. If we can go half points,
You can do
I'm
whatever
gonna.
you want. Like we have the power here. Nobody can stop us.
That's true. I'm gonna give it a 1.5. It's just, especially in like, you could argue, yes, the graphics are great. It does some fun stuff with like the fun Easter eggs and shit in the background, and the music and all the nostalgia of the show itself. But like, this is a Konami game. Like, are you telling me that Konami couldn't do something a little bit better than this? I expected more. If this was like something like Lion King, where it's like Virgin Interactive made it, and okay, they're not obviously around anymore, and not known for making the best games, but this is fucking Konami. Like, you could have made a better game, Konami. That's a 1.5.
Well, somebody slapped a big bundle of money on their desk and said, "Hey, make this game for us." And you're like, "Okay." And they
Do we
said,
have
"You
to
want it to
play
be good?"
test
And they
it?
said, "No."
No, you say? Okay.
Yeah. All right. You gave it a 1.5 out of 10. We have our tier list. We talked about this beforehand because you wanted to give it the lowest of the low
I did. I've
on the
backed
tier
off of that a
bracket. I
little bit.
talked you out of it because we
Yeah.
came up with some criterias that if it's going to hit the F tier or the bottom tier, we both have to agree it's on the bottom tier. And if it's going
Yeah.
to hit the S tier, same criteria, we both have to agree. So both extremes have to be unanimous. Otherwise, it gets somewhere in the middle. So
Right.
what comes before F? E?
Yes, I believe E, if my alphabet knowledge.
Well, hold on a second. I'm just do a little singing here. A, B, C, line.
D. Yeah, looking at the game tier list, I'm gonna put this on the E tier, right alongside Ren and Stimpy and Lion King. And
Yeah,
it's
and so far nothing's hit the F tier, which
yeah.
means we haven't played anything so bad. And I have a feeling the first game that hits the F tier will be one that we both just come on and trash by saying we never even wanted to play this. We just did 10 minutes and threw it away, and now we're just going to yell at it.
Yeah, I think F tier has to be reserved for like games that are like barely complete or broken. This game isn't completely broken, it just sucks. That's all.
Yeah, it's too hard. It gets, like I said, it gets in its own way.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, let's sum this up because that's going to do it for another episode of Retrotopia. So, what do we got coming up next week?
Next week we are going to be talking about Mega Man 2, which is a Capcom game, and we love you, Capcom.
Yeah, Capcom.
So until next time, keep on gaming.